Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today, another journey kind of comes to an end. Maybe I think the internet is not sure, but we'll see. I
The
guess
ending was also kind of vague.
kind of. I guess we'll never know what kind of it was. But yeah, another journey comes to an end. This has been around a year, I guess, a year and a month ish, because it started in December of 2022.
Yep.
But yeah, Sonic Prime Season 3 is upon us. It came out a few days ago. We are here to review it because we reviewed the previous two seasons. So, just to catch you guys up in terms of Sonic the Hedgehog fanboy level, I'm the fan, he's not. At least, not that I if you listen to earlier episodes, despite the fact that he makes fun of me for liking Sonic, he's not a hater. He's just not as much into the franchise as I
Yeah, it's one of those things that it exists. Sometimes I partake, sometimes I do not, sort of thing, right?
am.
Casual, casual
He.
viewer, casual player, sort of deal.
hmm So I'm the big fan. He's the casual. Might as well put this out now. And for the in terms of the previous seasons, you can listen to them in the channel. But to quickly sum up, I think it's a fun show. It's even a really fun show. I love the
Hmm.
animation. I love the action sequences. The voice cast is really good. I do have some critiques about Sonic's personality, which we will get to in a bit because it kind of connects to a bit to something I have to say about the show in general, which again we'll talk about as we go. But overall, I think the first two seasons were very fun watches. And if you're a Sonic fan, there's a good chance you'll have fun too. But then again, this fan base, so
Agreed
no guarantees.
on both
We'll
counts. Agree. I know. I agree with you. Yeah. This even for me, this was just a fun show. There's nothing here that I would say this is awful. This ruins the show. No, it's just this is fun. This is good, right? Like you can come into this knowing that you're going to have an enjoyable watch at the very least, and you'll have fun with it, and then you can move on.
Mhm. Well, and now we have the third and supposedly final season. Again, we might get to it later. And I will say, as the big fan here, I really enjoyed this season when I first saw it. I would have even gone and said, I think it's the best of the three. But then the more after it ended and the more I thought about it, while I don't think it's terrible by any stretch of the imagination, I am starting to have more questions in my mind regarding, did they run out of time? Did things not go according to plan? Because there are a lot of choices, there are a lot of stuff love, and then there are stuff where I'm just kind of like, huh, not how I would have done it, but okay, I guess. I'm kind of conflicted, but I'm positive, but I'm also conflicted. Wolf, what about you?
I the only thing that struck me as really off was the ending. Otherwise, everything more or less felt okay. I felt, or even good. We'd have to get into what exactly it is you're talking about in spoiler territory, more than likely, because I'm not quite sure what
Mm,
you might mean. But
uh, yeah,
the
we'll
ending
talk
definitely
about
felt a
it.
little off and a little abrupt. But other than that, like I would say, yeah, this was a good season. I thought it was a little strange that we had a basically 4-part final episode, essentially final battle, essentially like 4-episode final
Yeah.
battle. But
So again, without
I
getting into too much spoilers, I just say that some of the things that felt odd is that, yeah, we kind of have the climax is basically 3 or 4 episodes long, depending on how you look at it. And like, well, it's action packed and it's fun and everything. I also feel, weirdly enough, that having it stretched out to 3 or 4 episodes, started to drag it out, and it's weird that the action is the part that slows Sonic down to a degree. But
Yeah, there
not
were
that the stuff
definitely.
that happens there, it's terrible. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, no, you're fine. I was just going to agree with you. There were definitely some action scenes that felt like too long, or like we didn't need this much action. Oddly enough, like you could have ended this a little bit sooner if we didn't need this extra fight scene here or there, stuff like that, right? But I
But
mean, it's still
overall,
animated well, so I'm not going to complain too
yeah,
much. And I,
like it's still animated well, and there are a lot of there are still some of the jokes really hit, and there are character moments which really rock. And what I said about Sonic, I think Sonic's personality in this show is like to the best it's been in this season. Like Sonic is in his. I was about to make a pun, so pun intended, and you can kill me afterwards. Sonic is in his prime for most of this season, most of it.
boo, boo.
I know. This is why I stopped myself. But to get the point across, is I think in terms of how he was handled in this show, this season did him the most justice to who he's supposed to be. And again, this is a debate for after we cover everything. You'll understand why I'm kind of mixed about it.
I also
So
want to say though, it's our kind of like final battle starts around mid episode 4 and then goes from there to episode 7 because there's only 7 episodes in this season. I do want to say
the thing,
while
the thing here is,
watching, well, I just
yeah.
want to say
Sorry.
real quick before the final battle, I just would I was just gonna say like I didn't notice that it was kind of straight. Like I noticed it at episode 4. It's like, wait, is all of the rest of the episodes gonna be fighting Nine, or are they gonna do like an Eggman betrayal thing? Because of course they're gonna do that, right? But no, like it all pretty much stays fighting Nine. It's all pretty much against Nine. Like Tails is the bad guy here essentially for once. And then we have
And
like
this is
at the
not a
very
spoiler because
they
if you
revealed
are
this in
watching
season
this,
2.
yeah, if you watch this, you've seen season two, you've seen trailers, you know that Nine is the bad guy,
Yeah, like
essentially.
you came into this, and I remember talking about it for season 2. Like I would really want. I don't want. I did not want to see them be like, "Oh, Nine's the bad guy," and then it lasts for like 2 episodes, and like, well, back to Eggman again. Because I really wanted him to be the final bad guy for all of it, right?
Hmm.
And he was, and I am all for that.
And also, I think the fact that the DA Council was downplayed in this season was a good thing.
Yeah,
They are actual Eggmen. They are not.
I mean, I'm fine with them, but yeah, it's like they're
But it's
cool,
like,
they're fine. It's Eggman, adjacent essentially. It's just one of those
mhm.
things of like it's nice to see it be a different villain for once,
Yeah,
especially when
and
you've
also
had two
something that's
seasons with them.
interesting,
I mean, three
which
seasons
we'll
with
get
them,
to.
really.
Yeah, I did mention in the season two review we did that the worst way you can possibly harm Sonic the Hedgehog is if you turn Tails against him.
Hmm.
And essentially, this is what Nine is. It's a Tails that never had a Sonic, and once he actually starts, opening up to Sonic, Sonic kind of turns on him, not even intentionally, but Nine being Nine, he does his own thing, and I figured that it would be really interesting to see them tackle that as a full season arc, and they did.
Hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
happy about that. What we have to say in terms of the how, we'll get there in spoilers, but overall, again, it's a really good season. It gives you what you want. It concludes the show well. If you were one of those people who didn't like the show up until this point, then I don't think it will do much to change your view,
No.
for the record. But at the same time, I say if you enjoy the show, then this is an overall good conclusion. Overall,
Also, yeah, no, I completely agree. I also want to say, like, even though it is like a long final battle, I didn't really start to notice that it felt like it was dragging on until about, I want to say, like, there's a bit in episode 6 where I was like, and a little bit in episode 7 somewhere. I forget exactly where I was like, hmm. For the
mm,
most part, like it
yeah,
was just that thought of like, should this not be done already? Do we really need this
yeah.
scene? But fine. But other than like a moment or two, I would say that they did really well at making me like never feel bored during this final battle, even though it lasts for so long, right?
Yeah, like the show's not boring, and that's something that I did kind of say for the show's advantage, more so in season two than one.
Mm-hmm.
That it felt quick paced, as I believe a
Mm-hmm.
Sonic show should kind of be, but also not too rushed to that like you're like, wait, what did just happen? But again, this is something that probably some people could argue over, but that's how I felt. Now, I guess for the rest of this thing, we have to jump into spoilers because I don't think I can talk about this non-spoilery anymore. We
No,
have
fair.
to. So
Go watch Sonic
spoilers
Prime
for
Season 3 if you haven't yet.
yep. So if you are interested and you want to watch the show, this is your chance to close the video, go watch the season, and then come back. Spoilers for Sonic Prime Season 3 start in 3, 2, 1. You still here? Good. So, I guess another thing that I did that I guess it's not really a matter of spoilers, non-spoilers, but I might as well just bring this up. I'm a big fan of how they do Shadow in this show. This is a character that had it rough in the last couple of years because
Listen, he's
Sega
he's easy to do wrong.
and not there was also this thing that apparently Sega put a lot of kind of restrictions on him, like what you can do with him, what you can't do with him, which apparently they eased up on supposedly just in time for this show and the third movie which is coming out later this year. So because the movie is basically going to be about him, so I guess they realized, what? No, we need to let them go. And I already really liked how they did Shadow in season two, and he didn't disappoint me in season three. He has a lot of good moments. I love his interactions with Sonic. He's great.
Hmm.
My only problem, it feels like at some point the writers forgot about him, and then Sonic's like, "All right, Shadow is in this. We kind of need to put him in." Or so
I
there are
mean,
moments where
it was kind of weird because we went for episode 1, he was there. We're going to go after 9, like episode 1, 2, basically. It's him and Shadow going after 9. And or
Mhm.
episode 1 actually, and then
Episode one, the opener, yeah.
Shadow gets basically dropped into a hole and forgotten about until like episode 6, I feel like, is when he comes out all of a sudden.
No, he comes out. He comes out in say he comes out in episode five. That sounds wrong, but anyway. Okay, but basically, it's until episode five where,
Move
which
over,
also
Amy.
confused me because Sonic is like, you've been here the whole time, and he does have a funny joke about beating up a bunch of Sonics isn't the worst way
I
to
mean,
spend time,
I do give him
which
credit.
is
There is a pile of robots in this hole that he's been trapped in, that he's
yeah.
quote unquote
But
been
then
trapped in, essentially, I
But then he
guess.
also says that he lost the Chaos Emerald that he had since the start of the show to in the between the between the in the shadow space, between
Mhm.
all the universes. And he's like, so I've been stuck here. And then Sonic and him, and then he just uses his rocket shoes to fly up the hole
Yeah, they just
while
run up the
Sonic runs up.
wall.
It's like, wait, so you couldn't chaos control out, but you could have done this. Like, what? Why? What? This is the one part in the writing when I'm like, wait a minute.
I just took it as he was having too much fun beating up the robots. So he's like,
Most
I'll
likely.
stay.
Yeah. I'll stay because you know what? Like you said, he can enjoy beating up a bunch of Sonics. But and to be honest, another thing I enjoyed is that it, it would have been so easy to have him just dunk on Sonic for trusting Nine. And for the record, he does, but he's not like condescending to the point of, that's all he's ever gonna say. He actually sees Sonic as a valued ally. And when he brings up that Nine betrayed Sonic, he brings it more as a criticism of Nine rather than Sonic himself, which I appreciate.
I mean,
And
oh, go ahead.
yes,
You're right. No, go ahead.
And I also like that in this. It seems like that as much as Sonic wants to tell him, "Listen, let's ease up here," he he does realize that Shadow has a point. Like there's a point when they reach the Grim. Enter Ruby joke here for you, Wolf. And there's
Ah,
there's this bit where where Sonic tells Shadow, "Let me try and reason with him," and Shadow goes, "But if you can't do it, he's mine." And Sonic tells him, "No, he's ours." I like that little bit of dialogue because it shows that yes, Sonic will try and go for the peaceful route, but if the person doesn't listen, he will defend himself. He won't fall for this again. And despite the fact that it's hard for him to hit what is essentially another Tails, he would do it if if everything comes down to it.
Mm.
Small moment between the two, which works really well.
I mean, they even have the ending right where he's actively trying to save Sonic too. So
Mhm.
before Sonic like disappears, I guess
Yeah.
you could say, or dies. I guess you could say.
Mhm.
It's really good. It works for them even.
Considering in the game Sonic technically died twice and was then revived, you can say that. And obviously, they wouldn't have killed him.
What if they did though?
Let's say if they did. Actually, no. Now I think about it, in the games it happens three times. Technically, I forgot murder of Sonic the Hedgehog was a thing for a second.
Is that canon?
Supposedly.
Actually, I learned something when I was doing some research for this show. Apparently, this is the first ever Sonic show to be considered canon, like a part of the
We
canon. With
talked about this before, and I am saving it.
okay,
This is gonna come into play later.
okay, I will wait.
Trust me. I don't know why I turned British here for a second, but
I will
trust me
wait.
on that.
I can
Trust
wait.
me, I'm gonna wait. All I'm gonna tell you, get ready for war on the internet
Oh
because
boy,
oh boy,
that'll be
jinx
fun.
on that. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, the Sonic and Shadow interaction done really well.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
and I'm also and it's also nice to just see Shadow being an actual character again, and not just like I hate Sonic because it's in my contract. Like
No, fair,
yeah, they
fair.
would go. They would go against each other. Obviously, they're rivals, and they have different, they have different outlooks on the world. But you can also see that they have some sort of respect for each other, and they tease each other as I would expect them to tease each other.
Hmm.
So, I I appreciate how it is written, and if you know what, I am excited to see what they'll do with Shadow in the third movie because I trust the team there, but that's for later.
Yeah, no, it's
Now,
it's nice to see their rivalry. Given like the time to shine, but it's also nice to see that they are more than just rivals, right? It's nice. They did
yeah,
really well here. I thought. I
hmm
liked it.
yeah.
No complaints.
Now with everything else, so like I said, I believe this was the best that Sonic was written in this show because in the
Hmm.
first two seasons, especially season one, I felt like that in the need to make him learn a lesson, they kind of went against tropes that like again, we talked about the canonicity here. I think the fact the show is supposed to be canon makes it worse in that regard because Game Sonic won't necessarily need to learn some of the lessons he does, and he would be more competent than he is in some scenes.
Interesting.
But I feel in season three, he does feel more like the Sonic I know and love. Not to say that he was completely off in the first two seasons, but I feel like in here it sort of it came to where I would expect him to be written if it is part of the canon. But
In
again, this
in what way, if you
this
don't
will
mind
come
me
later.
asking? Like, is it because they're like they more of the hero style stuff, or
Well, let's say this: the let's say because the point of the entire show is that he accidentally shattered the paradox prism, right?
yeah?
It's because of his mess up that this I can say, okay, Sonic is fast, Sonic is free like the wind. It's not the first time that his impulseness caused trouble.
Hmm.
This I can work with. This I get like okay. But in season one, there was this entire thing of like, oh, so you need to like care more about your friends here, or don't ditch your
Ah,
friends. So
see.
I'm sorry, is this a lesson Sonic the Hedgehog will show that Crib the real superpower of teamwork needs to learn? How? When? What? and and then it kind of comes, when they jump in a bit here, when we reach the final climax, and all of his friends are like, "Whoa, Sonic, what happened to you? Like, when are you so? Let's walk together." It's like, um, um, should I bring up the encyclopedia they released for the 30th anniversary to show you exactly how many times that happened? Hello?
None of those times exist. They see they're not Sonic.
You know something? What you just said might be it might be a better answer than what the official answer on this is. But again, I'll get to it. I'll get to it.
I
I'm
can't wait.
saving it. But
But no, I get what you mean there. Okay, I understand now. That's fair.
so to me, this was a kind of like one of the things that's kind of off-putting about the show. Like, if this show were on its own, and I didn't have to take the games into account, it's like, okay, you know what, this is their own version of Sonic. I'm not gonna be harsh on it.
Yeah, no,
There have been, kind of like Spider-Man. There are so many different versions of Sonic. Like, the movie Sonic is not a game Sonic, and that's perfectly
no,
fine.
which is fun. Yeah,
Uh, like there are the traits that I would expect Sonic to have, but he is different, and that's okay. That's a different version.
hmm
Archie Sonic is a bit different, but he's still the same at his core. And enter every other show or comic or whatever that you want here.
yeah.
So there's always like this base, and but if you are coming here and telling me, no, 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 this is canon to the games, this is happening in the same continuity as the games, then I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit. Sonic is not. Oh, is Sonic? This is not game Sonic. I wouldn't mind it if you told me it's not canon, but you told me that it is, and but again, to this degree, I think this season handled him the best in that regard. And I feel that's only because they felt like, oh, he reached the end of his arc in this season,
Yeah, he
like that he
learned the
realizes.
lesson we wanted to start with, even
Mhm.
though in canon that was the lesson he should already have known, right? Or
It's
that's
not a
something.
lesson he should have learned
It's just something that,
at
like that's a
all. This is like
trait he
his.
already espouses, essentially.
Yeah. I will quote again, will show that Crip the real superpower of teamwork. If you're a Sonic fan, there's no chance in hell you haven't heard that term, that phrase. You've probably quoted it. It's it's like it's there. You can't tell me this. You can tell me this didn't occur.
Fair.
Okay, now to okay, got this out of the system. In terms of any other stuff, I think Nine was a good villain.
Agreed.
Like, I especially enjoyed the in episode 2. Where Sonic is running around New York, and he just shows up and it's like, you can run as much as you want, but you can't hide for me.
It's a very Tails
Like,
villain too, which is also really
mhm.
good too. Like
Yeah, it's like
it's
it
still
doesn't feel
Tails,
like.
but it's
Yeah,
it's him as a villain, which I think is really
yeah.
good.
Because again, Nine's point is essentially if Tails never had Sonic,
hmm
and in that way, it works really damn well. And in that, I am glad Tails did have Sonic, because Tails as a villain, it kind of freaks me out. He's a more competent Eggman, and even I think Eggman would even not go as far as he did in terms of sucking the energy out of the out of the prism.
Well, even
That's debatable.
even more than that, right? Like Nine was, you know, I feel like Eggman doesn't necessarily kill all that often, right? Like that's not really his thing. I know it's the games, like they don't really do much of that anyways, but in like the story of Sonic, but it felt like not like there were a few times in this show where it's like I mean, since we're in spoiler territory,
Yeah.
the other tales, like I genuinely thought they were gone. I didn't think they were
Yeah,
going to bring them back.
I also thought that they're gone,
I will
it
admit.
it is kind of, and I also thought that not only that, but I thought was also fucked up that out of all the he would go for his variants first.
hmm
By the way, I will say Mangy is the best thing ever, and I love the fact that despite the fact that he's like this, that
That he's
despite that
rabid.
this that is rabid, and he's basically the team pet to an extent. He still has Tails as smart, like when he makes it to the Egg Council's control room, and he's just starting munching on the damn control buttons, and then it's like, oh, okay, he actually did it. He,
Yeah,
he actually
I thought that was
that
genuinely a good joke too, because like, all right,
that
well, efficiency has increased, and Eggman's like, what? How?
yeah.
How did this idiot
So
do this?
yeah, so I love that part because I know some people probably be like, oh no, what did they do to my boy Tails? No, I can't accept the fact that it's a different canon. Why did he have to be this? And then it's like, you see, he's still smart. He still got the Tails vibe.
I
I
mean,
like I love it.
and I,
And
yeah, it was nice to see because like up until this point, he did seem kind of just like he's just a rabid version of Tails. He's not smart, but no, actually, he is smart, and I loved seeing him and basically Sales. I think it is Pirate
I
Tails
think it's Tails, yeah.
working together to like make essentially a bomb, make essentially like work,
Okay.
destroy Nine's robots and work on stuff like that. Like it's really good.
I will say. I, it was kind of repetitive that all nine really had for an army is just endless robot duplicates of like a Metal Sonic, Metal Amy. I know it's not Metal Sonic, but you get what I mean. But
Mm.
like that, there's like a robotic Sonic, a robotic Amy, a robotic Knuckles, and all that. And then suddenly, like his giant ass last resort weapon
I thought
is
that
a
was
giant.
hilarious as
It,
hell.
it was a giant ass big robot that choose missiles which look like Froggy. That is ingenious. I don't care what people say. This is brilliant, and I even love more that as soon as it fires its missiles, an episode ends with literally a missile coming towards Sonic in slow motion, and he just had this face of shock when he goes, "Froggy." That's amazing.
Listen,
That's wonderful.
I feel
I
like that's
love it.
I feel like that was one of those moments of yeah, the creators they get the memes, they understand. I feel like
As someone,
even I
as
was
someone
like,
who,
all right, this is stupid, but I kind of love it. This is
no,
like
like
this is perfect Sonic stupid.
it, it's like one of those things that's so stupid, but it's brilliantly stupid.
Yeah,
Like it's the perfect thing to put in there. That because
it
really, when you
works
look
for
at it,
Sonic, right? It's one of those things like
not
this works.
not just in a matter of it works for Sonic, but just in the context of it. Of course, the big fuck you weapon will be a giant ass robot that looks like Big because he's the one character no one would even care about or think about in that instant. Also, someone for some reason it's the big duplicants that do the Spider Verse meme, the Spider Man meme, because they have this point of like when they see each other and they
Oh,
point at each other.
holy shit! Yes, that did not even dawn on me that they did that, but they absolutely did that. Holy shit, that is
Like I just remember
hilarious.
seeing this because the first one is like, oh, wow, he looks like mangy, and then he turns around and he sees like the new Yogurt, and they gasp and they point at each other, and I'm like, Spider Man.
That is hilariously dumb. I did not even notice that. It completely went over my head, but yes, they absolutely did that, and
Well,
that is,
you're talking to a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog and a big fan of Spider-Man, so of course I would make the connection.
of course, this show would do that meme with Big of all things.
Yeah, and the fact that it's with Big is actually, something they should have done it with Knuckles because he has no fingers, ergo he can't point.
It makes sense with Big. Big is a meme, so give
Yeah,
him the
Big is
memes.
a meme for the worst possible reason because he's the worst fucking character.
Listen, he had some moments. He saved Sonic's life in this show.
Um, hey, listen, this is this show, but before this show, I hate him. He has no purpose. Fuck him.
I mean, he
I don't
still
want to
doesn't here
fish.
either.
Leave me alone. I would have bought Sega Best Fishing. Don't put us in my Sonic. Anyway. So, onward with the show. The three Amy's becoming sisters was the most wholesome thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Um, and speaking of, I like that even some of the characters got their own like like that Rusty, the robot Amy, thinks that it's only thanks to the animal inside of her that she has power, but then she lets the animal go and goes like, I have enough power on my own. I thought that was nice. And
Mm-hmm.
also uh Dread, Knuckles the Dread, you think, which, by the way, speaking of Rushed, he's like super depressed by the start of the season, but then he just like, you know what, I'm gonna fight with everyone,
Yeah,
I
which
don't
is
care.
yeah, that one was like definitely one of those things of like I feel like we missed a character development moment here somewhere, like a talk somewhere that of either Amy or Pirate Amy or Pirate Rouge going up to talk to him and say, "Hey, get your shit together, man," and him being like, "All right, fine." I feel like we missed that discussion somewhere because yeah, he's basically sitting around all depressed, doesn't want to even go save his own crew or do anything, and then final battle he arrives and he's like, "Nope, I'm here to fight. Let's go." It's
Hmm.
like, okay,
Yeah,
I
I
guess that
I did
works, but
I did like that. Essentially, he did come back to save, at least his Amy, and eventually made her captain. But the part where you see him, so that it's like, I'm so, well, did we miss an
that moment
episode?
that moment's fine, but it would have worked a lot better like if we don't even need an episode, just like a talk with him, right? Just
Yeah,
someone going up to him and talking to him and kind of like slapping some sense into him, I guess you would say essentially. If we would have had that moment would have been that much better, right?
yeah.
Especially if it was Amy that had the talk with him, right?
Hmm.
And it feels like that's what they wanted to do, but they just had nowhere they could fit it in that essentially, right?
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I'm trying to think if there was anything uh, before we can jump into the main stuff. I Okay. You know what? Let's just talk about this now, and we'll move along. If we'll go back to anything if we think we missed it. So 9.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked that. I also, in terms of 9, and how I feel Sonic is better handled. Like, Sonic had moments where he just slowed down and talked about heavy things before, especially when he first meets 9. So, but I enjoy eh, that they have this conversation. I think it's the end of episode 3, like before the big climax starts, essentially, where Sonic tells 9, okay, I am gonna help you because 9 does need Sonic to complete the prism.
Mm-hmm.
Which I also like that Sonic is able to figure this on his own, that, he's the key for this, and that 9 needs him in order to be in power. So he does set up this ultimatum to 9 and tells them, I'll come, but you have to leave all of them alone afterwards. And 9 seems to respect that. And when Sonic shows up, they have this talk, which I feel is one of the best pieces of writing in this show, where Sonic is actually at a vulnerable position, and he tells 9, "Listen, I wanted to help you. I am sorry that I hurt you, and we and I'm willing to accept it. I'll do what you need me, but just please, just don't hurt the others." And 9 does call him out in terms of, I see. You always say that want to help anyone because you're the hero and that's what heroes do, but you are actually doing it to to make up for your own for your own mistakes, for your for your own for your own problems. And I feel this is an interesting, even though it's not Tails, right? Obviously, 9 is technically different, but I feel if there's one character who will be able to talk to Sonic like that and be like, listen, I know that what you say isn't always what you feel, and that you have your darkness inside of you. Tails would be the one to call Sonic out for it. And I feel there's a bit of Tails there in the 9 way of looking at it, that is
Mm-hmm.
like, you're not doing this because you're a hero. You're doing this because you want to make up for the fuck ups you had. And I feel this is interesting. It's an interesting point for both Sonic as a character in general, and just 9 slash Tails for being the one to call Sonic out on his shit when it's needed. It happened before, but it always felt like Tails would be the one to do it first because they are like brothers essentially. So I really enjoyed that talk, and eventually, when Sonic
Agreed.
tells them, "I know you don't believe me, but it doesn't matter. I know that I would. I know that I would have. I would have helped you either way." And I felt it was a really good talk, and you see that he also actually gets to nine to some degree. And then the council and all the other friends show up, and it's like, oh, you betray. This is the part where I'm like, really, we're doing this. You had such a great scene. Why was this needed again? Why?
Because we gotta have our final battle.
But there could have been other ways to do it. We see how painful the process would be when Sonic is being drained out of the prism energy. Why not see? Why can't they just see him being drained and then they come in? Because like, oh, we held Sonic, and then and then things would have. It just felt kind of a lazy way to do it because it was such a good dialogue between the two, and then
The
suddenly
only
just like, oh.
the reason I would say they probably did it that way is because they still wanted, because again they do have that kind of dialogue at the very end where Sonic finally realizes what Nine was trying to do for him and everything, and they have that moment too. And I do
Mhm,
think that moment is made better by Nine continuing to think Sonic has betrayed him, right? And not wanting to give Sonic the time of day because Sonic has betrayed, quote unquote, betrayed him so many times. I mean,
okay,
really,
that's all.
even when you think about it from the start, right? Nine thinking Sonic betrayed him to begin with is kind of like, no, Nine, you're just being kind of up your own ass about it sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like you can sit back and say you are only using me. It's like, no, he wasn't really doing anything wrong by you. He was just focused on getting his home back. You know,
Mhm,
it's like it feels like you're kind of being up your own, head up your ass a bit about Sonic betraying you a little bit. But I do get it from like his perspective as a character too, right? So
mhm,
having that scene and having him think that, oh, Sonic brought the cavalry in and led them to me, that's why they're able to do all this. I think it works. Whether it was the best idea or not, I don't know. Like, I'm not super into Sonic enough to say if that was a good enough heavy scene that they could have done something different. But I will say for me as a casual viewer, I think it worked.
mm. I mean, I think I get where you're coming from, and you're probably not wrong. I just think maybe just one more rewrite, maybe could have
That's
made it
fair.
better.
I think that's absolutely fair.
Though when the fight actually does start, after Nine supposedly kills the two other Tailses. There's a point where Sonic does say, "I want to take the fight to him so bad, but I
Was
know
another
that's
good
what he
moment.
wants." Again, it shows this is the kind of character arc that I think Sonic does better when he actually has to stop and think about things. It's not that he doesn't think, but he thinks too quickly and he doesn't really come to what sounds best in the moment isn't necessarily the best thing in the long run.
Well, it's also
So,
really good because it's like, again, it's essentially Tails who knows Sonic really well, right? And knows
mhm,
how to push his buttons. And Sonic has to be like, no, I can't let him do that this time, right? Because if I do, we all lose, right? So it's
mhm.
really nice to see because, again, like you said, like Sonic really works well and you have to slow him down and say, no, wait, as a character, I need to not be impulsive here. I need to think for a bit and do the smart thing, right?
And essentially, he does revolve a strategy around the fact that Nine needs him.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like when, again, let's say Rouge is a character that I won't say I adore or anything. She's not in my top 10, but I also don't despise her by any means. And it's nice to see at least. I always thought that she was like kind of the cast member that got the short end of the stick when it comes to this show because like when you think about the other Tails has nine, Amy has either Torn or Rusty depending on how you look at it, and Knuckles got Dread. None of the Rouge variants really stood out
I
in
mean,
this
really,
show.
I'd argue Knuckles got Dread and New York Knuckles, like two really good
Yeah,
Knuckles.
but I think New York Knuckles is basically just regular Knuckles. So
I guess, yeah.
um, but it always felt like Rouge was just kind of there. Like in any of the variants, she wasn't really pushing for it, and like she was always like there. She was. I would say that with Buzz Cage Maze and New York, she was relevant, but she wasn't the one,
Yeah.
right? Like compared to Nine or Dread or
She didn't have her
Tom.
standout version of herself, essentially.
Yeah, so I did enjoy that at least her New York counterpart did something that Rouge would be good at because Rouge is part of the military. She's part of the army in the games. So Gun from the movies, she's part of them. So so it what?
No, no, I'm just clearing my throat. You're fine.
Okay. Oh, okay. I just thought like you had an idea here all about something.
No,
So
not
so
yet.
basically, so I like that she's the one that comes up with a strategy how to get to nine, and her strategy is actually a good strategy. Like that, she actually
Hmm.
divides the teams into like these are the teams that we always got to walk with. These are the teams that know each other. They know how to walk together, and I thought it was a nice way for to let her strategize for a bit and actually push through. I would have found it interesting. This is just a nitpick on my end. I would have found it interesting if Shadow could have commented to some of the variants of her, because considering she is his Tails to some degree. But that's just me being a nitpicky, and I guess fanfiction exists if someone wants to take on
Yeah,
it.
that's probably like the one complaint I would say I have too is that Shadow, other than the one scene's like, hey, this is Shadow. He's also, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And no one really says much of anything else after that. Shadow didn't really have any interaction with any of the other characters, essentially,
Hmm. Yeah,
barring
and I
Nine.
think and I think with Rouge it would have been interesting because again she's his best friend. Maybe you could argue that because of his no nonsense attitude, he probably just knows that none of them are really Rouge. But come on,
It would have been nice to have
Uh,
gotten a little small something, but it's not necessarily like not getting it doesn't make the show infinitely worse, right? It's just one of those
yeah,
things
like
of this would have been
this.
nice, but oh
That's
well.
why I'm saying it. That's why I'm saying it's a nitpick. It's like
Absolutely.
it doesn't ruin anything. But I will say, we all kind of get into it. Essentially, everything leads to episode 6, which starts with our Sonic versus Nine battle, which one great battle.
Hmm.
And two, I think this is the first time we had the Sonic versus Tails fight, which was fully animated in some way, and they didn't cut us out.
Hmm. Interesting.
Because I think the best example we have is in the Archie comics. There was a 2-issue story where Sonic. That you know what? Side note: when I first started reading, I started reading Archie Sonic like completely on a whim, and I just figured, okay, you know what? I know Sonic enough. Even if I don't have the entire history of the comic under my belt, I can probably just jump into an issue and figure it out. And I'm reading 2 issues, and I'm like, okay, this is fun. Second issue I ever read is like Sonic and Tails, friends no more, and I'm like, well, that escalated. Imagine if you're going into this when you're as big a fan as I am, and this is the thing you see like 2 issues in. It's like, well, I need to reconsider my life choices. Thank you. so, but yeah, so I think that Archie story is like the one thing some people think, and they've had arguments before, right? They had points
Yeah.
where they argued with each other, but it was never a fight. It was never them actually going at each other.
Hmm.
And well, again, and there was that tease in Sonic Colors where Eggman takes control of Tails' mind for a bit, and he goes, "Oh, going to enjoy this because the best thing to do is to have both of you fight." And you think, is there going to be a battle against Tails? And then the beam runs out of juice, and it's like, oh, okay, I see how it is.
Fair.
So
But yeah, it's nice that they
it's
didn't do
nice to
that
see
here.
them not pull any punches here, and also see that they are kind of they are a match to each other. Like Nine gets more and more crazy with the more energy from the prism he absorbs, and Sonic just being Sonic. I like how he actually manages to trick Nine that he fell, and then he walks behind him like and then he goes
Listen, that got
splat
a
and
chuckle out of me,
attacks
I'll
him.
admit.
Yeah, that's pure Sonic teasing right there.
Yeah.
Also, I actually forgot something. That I To some extent you could say that maybe they are pushing the fact that Sonic loves chili dogs way too far. But when Nine told them that serious, I hate chili dogs.
That was also
Call
kind of
me
funny.
out as much as you want, I laughed. That was awesome.
No, I would admit I laughed too. I thought that it was dumb, but I also laughed. I won't lie.
And that's the thing. I think it was self-aware
Oh
that
yeah,
it was dumb,
I
but
think this show's,
because
to its credit, I think this show is quite self-aware at times. It gets what it's doing, and
like
it knows. You can tell the people behind it know Sonic well enough to know. Yeah, Sonic fans would laugh at this more than likely. This is dumb Sonic stuff. We can
Sonic fans
use
would
that.
laugh. Sonic fans would be like, "No, the fact he likes chili dogs has been pushed too far.
I mean,
This would not stand."
I don't judge the Sonic fans. There's a range of you.
I'm not saying, for the record, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that sometimes people's complaints are just
No,
so.
I
This
get
is
it.
what you are worried about in this big ass show. That Sonic squills are a centimeter shorter than the previous game. For fuck's. But okay, here's the thing. But you know something? I
Sonic
appreciate the
fans.
show. I do appreciate that the show is self-aware, but also like I think it's good self-aware. Like, it's not
Yeah.
to the point that it becomes a parody of itself. It does have stakes. It does take itself seriously when it needs to. There are
Mhm.
stakes. Like the self-aware is has its own corner. It's not the focus.
It's inserted well too, right? Like it's
Yes.
inserted at points using more often than not Sonic that this is a thing his character would do in this moment, because there are times where like Sonic wouldn't necessarily take a big final battle, quote unquote, seriously all the way through. He would have some
The
fun with it every now and again. He would make fun of it every now and again because that's
No,
who he
he would
is.
definitely sass. He would definitely sass, and essentially, when your big fight at the end is this corrupted version of his quote unquote little brother. He would have fun with that every so often, especially when he outsmarts the smartest person he knows.
Hmm. Agreed.
So,
And they
yeah,
insert it
I
well
like
here.
and again the fight is really well animated, and I just love that there's this point where it's Nine summons all of these robots, and then Shadow just shows up and it's like, I'm not finished with you, and he causes this explosion, and it's like, I told you I am the ultimate life form. Again, it's one
The
of those
ultimate life
he
form lines was just so wild because it just felt
it,
so out of nowhere and out of place. It's like, but
it's one of
what?
those it's one of those, hey, he said the thing kind of moments. So
Even when he did it, like when they get back to Green Hill, right after the final battle, and
oh
he
no, that
comes
was stupid.
and he
That
comes in
was
with the
stupid.
Chaos Emerald and just Eggman's, what are you doing here? I'm the ultimate life form. I go where I want. It's like, what? And it just
Yeah,
disappears with the
like
giant with
when he just
the giant.
lands. No, like in the final fight, it worked better, and I also like that. Uh,
I mean, it was still a little dumb, but yeah, I guess it worked
I guess,
better.
but I guess it's like, okay, you know what? If we I guess we kind of need it here. I don't know. Maybe I guess maybe that's a contractual thing. I have no idea, but but I also like that essentially one of the variants that helps Sonic with the fight against Nine is actually one of the Knuckles ones, and
Yeah, it's New
it's
York
nice to
Knuckles,
see,
which
like
was actually kind of cool. Which I thought was a nice little. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was a nice little reference to them being the original three characters, right?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like Team Sonic together, only one of them is evil now, and so if there was one, like I feel if there was one guy who was fit to go help Sonic with that, I accept that it's a Knuckles variant,
Hmm.
and the one that's the most like the original Knuckles.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I thought that was
Mhm.
a really good little reference of. It makes sense that it would be, and And I mean, like, it also is a nice little reference too, I assume, because like the first time you meet Knuckles, he's technically an enemy for a bit, right? In like the games, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, in Sonic 3,
So it's even
Eggman tricks him into thinking Sonic's the bad guy, and then it's like, oh shit, he tricked me. I am going to fall for for his tricks like maybe 5 times in a quick calculation at the moment. Uh,
listen.
and
No one
and
says
also
Knuckles was the brightest bulb of the bunch.
no, again, I will say though, if you've seen the second movie, which I know you did because we covered it on the
Hmm.
podcast, you basically got the gist of how they met.
But yeah, but what I was gonna say though is it's an also a
Oh,
neat little reference that
oh shit! I can't believe we didn't mention that because in the first season, you remember there was this flash animation with the sprites, which actually shows how Sonic and Knuckles kind of first met, even
yeah
though it kind of contradicts the. So we have another flash animation flashback in
yeah we
this.
do right.
I can tell you, talking about the Sonic fan base and how much, on this, I will kind of raise some eyebrows myself. People were mad because this is a reference to Sonic Advance 3.
Mm.
I should point out that, for one, nice to see the Advance trilogy get some respect because a lot of people love them and rightfully so. So it's nice to see a reference to it in something. But listen, this is a level from Advanced 3. They even fight the boss of that level.
Mm.
But there's one problem. Advanced 3 is a modern game. It has the modern designs and it used the classic sprites.
Ah.
Which, and I wouldn't mind so much, but the sprite for the boss they use have Eggman in his modern design and Sonic and Tails are the classic design. So it's like, it's this inconsistency with, like, I get what you're trying to do, flashback, they're younger, but
I
you
think
could
it's just one of
also
those things of they didn't want to change up their flashback style too much, right? Because that might
then
confuse
do something
people.
then reference Sonic 2 or something like, or Mania maybe. What
But yeah, I guess like there are moments where you're working with Tails in the games that you could have taken from the older games too, and it been had been fine,
I
right?
think the reason I guess they took this is because Sonic Advance 3 has this gimmick where you essentially, there's one character you control and you have another character that kind of teams up with you as the computer, and depending on the combination you have, you unlock some new abilities, new stuff. So the game is about co-op essentially.
Mm,
So I guess if we're going to reference Sonic and Tails walking together, it will be the one game which is kind of built up on that.
yeah,
But you could have used the actual designs from the game. Just saying. Just saying.
but put them in sprite form at least. Yeah, they could have done that.
Yeah. No, like that's the thing. It's a Game Boy Advance game.
Oh,
That's
it's
why it's
already in
called
sprite.
Sonic
Yeah, it's
Advance.
okay. So yeah, they're already in sprite form. Yeah, why didn't? That's kind of odd that they
And
made that
again, that's what
choice.
I'm saying because they use the boss sprites from the game and it's Eggman in his modern design. So what the hell?
I guess it's one of those things of they just didn't have time, or maybe they just didn't have the budget to do new models for Sonic and
It's funny
Tails.
that you say it's funny that you say time because Sega obviously gave them the sprites for the classic ones. So what are the modern sprites not archived?
Maybe Sega lost them.
To be honest, I can't tell you,
Mm,
but you know what? I'll take the positive. It's nice to see the advanced trilogy mentioned and acknowledged because it's one of those things that looking back, because they were on a handheld, I guess people just kind of tend to ignore them in the bigger picture. But they were great games.
hmm
I mean, I don't. I think I'm not sure which. I think actually Advanced 3 is the one that seems to be the most controversial. So that's even funnier that they reference that one in particular. So, well, I'm just being a nerd at this point. It was a nice callback, even if not perfect. Moving on.
Yeah, no, fair. Absolutely.
All right, so I guess we're kind of jumping into the final episode here. So I have to ask. Obviously, 9 was supposed to be redeemed, but what did you think about it when it actually happened?
I thought it was fine. I thought it worked. Like it made sense to me, right? because I saw nothing wrong with it. I guess you'd say because like again, that's what Sonic had been trying to do. Basically, the entire battle is try to get through to him. Like he didn't want to take him down at all if he could avoid it. Which again, it's Sonic. That makes entire sense, especially since it's
Hmm.
essentially Tails.
Yeah.
So I thought it works here.
Hmm. And then I will say the redemption, I think, worked enough. Like it was believable enough. I just felt like maybe it needed just a tiny bit more time.
That's fair. It's very quick, but again,
Mhm.
I I think it could have happened because I'll be honest with you, I expected Eggman to betray them a lot sooner than what he did too.
Which it seems like they kind of did want to do, but then thankfully they just pushed them into a portal, and it's like, hey, we're done with
I
them.
mean,
Yay.
I'm glad it was quick because I didn't really
Hmm.
want to see that because again,
No,
like I said
I'm with
before, I
you.
said it was season 2, right? I hope they keep Nine as the villain throughout most of, if not all of, the next season because I don't want to see them just make the Egg Council the ultimate villain at the very end, and our final battle is with them, not actually with Nine, right? I'm glad the final battle was with Nine.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I will say, as much as the Air Council, I like how one of them called Shadow and Edgelord. That's
Yeah.
just funny.
And it was the samurai one too.
Hmm.
Like you're one to
Um.
talk, but all right.
Yeah. So I agree with you on that. I do feel because I had to talk about this with a friend. She thought that Nine's redemption was too rushed, and I told her that in the one
I would
hand I kind of
agree.
agree. I would say that I kind of see it, but I also I found it more believable than a comparison that came to mind. I found it more believable than Wanda's redemption in WandaVision.
Fair.
And when I told her that, she was like, "Okay, yeah, you have a good point." So I guess like maybe if it was maybe a minute or 2 minutes, like to let things digest a bit more, maybe I would have. But it still works. I still think it works really well for a redemption that we saw coming, and also that not everyone trusts him right away when he's kind of the one that has to suck the prism energy out of Sonic, right?
Mm.
People are still kind of wary of him,
Which is
and
fair.
that.
Again, I'm glad they kept that in because it would have been odd if everybody's like, "Nope, we're good." It's nice that they did think about that. Like, not everyone's gonna just change their tune immediately, right?
Yes. And eventually, comes the point where I was sure Sonic was gonna go super from that. Maybe it's the flashing lights. I don't know, but I'm also glad that honestly, I'm glad that Super Sonic wasn't necessarily needed in this. There wasn't much to do with it, I suppose. And
I think
he
I might get
and also
crucified for saying this, but I feel like Supersonic gets overplayed somewhat.
well, to be honest, he has been downplayed recently. Like I guess actually I'm saying that, and we had Frontiers not too long ago. So okay, Frontiers did a lot with him, but in a way that felt like okay, he does need it.
Hmm.
And now that I think about it, Prime did kind of give us, I don't think it has a name, but in the season 2 finale, I think it's now called Prism Sonic. That's what people call it. So I guess we did get the super form. So,
Which is okay, but like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess we did, right? That was in season 2. I forgot about that.
mhm.
But I mean, it's not. I
So,
don't know. Like, I get it, but as a casual fan who's seen a decent amount of Sonic here or there, I feel like Super Sonic gets overplayed a bit too much from time to time. So it's nice to see something that didn't have him, but I guess technically did have him. So I guess I'm wrong.
and I would say there's also I don't see it making much sense that the prism that the paradox prism would turn him super. There's no real any logical explanation for that. So
Mm.
blah. So actually, to this day, Sonic X still the only Sonic cartoon with Super Sonic in it.
For now.
Until I wonder when that will break, but just a comparison.
Hmm.
So anyway, Sonic is now dying, and nobody knows can we save him? But then with the other universes started to get reformed, then Shadow has to like quickly get Sonic back into to Green Hill essentially. And when he does, we go back to the start of the show.
I got to complain about this scene, about
Hit
this
me.
sequence of events. What was the point of flying him on the bird when we just brought
I
out the ship
guess
anyways? That was so
I
stupid. Like that was
I
literally
get
just you literally just broke that poor bird's wing for no good reason, and that was it.
yeah. I think the point was that Sonic has done a lot for them. They want to do the same for him, but yeah, they could have just pulled the ship up to begin with because they also need to get Shadow in
Yeah,
though.
like I give the show credit as they're flying away on the bird. My thought was, but what about Shadow? What?
Yeah,
And then they're
I
like,
thought about that
ahem. And
too.
I'm like, okay, no, all right, fair enough, show, clap, clap. You got me with that one. That was good. I respect that.
Also, Shadow can, fly with his hover boots. I suppose
I
we
mean,
saw him, so
I'm not saying it was good, but I'll give him credit. At least when I asked the question, the show was also very much like, no, no, we know. It's like, all right, fair
mhm.
enough.
But anyway, yeah, it was a kind of. But now, okay, so Sonic comes back to the regular Green Hill, and problem with the ending number uno. Once he goes back to Green Hill, we don't see the other universes again,
Mhm.
and I get it. I get the idea that he's back home, moving on. But I think for the sake of conclusion, we could have at least seen what the rest of them are up to after the entire thing was fixed.
It would have been nice, like just to get a few scenes of like, hey, this is what they're doing. Like you see New Yoke and they're fighting that Chaos Council again. You see,
Uh,
then you
Not necessarily, but maybe New York is actually getting up on its feet. Maybe
something though, right? Like see a little
all
a scene
the
of that.
pirates, the pirates sailing ahead, and then maybe Nine is actually happy in the Grim or
Hmm.
something. So just to see a bit more, because we spent the majority of this show with these characters, and they don't really get a conclusion besides, I guess they're going back home. Yay!
Yep.
So this is problem with the ending number uno. Now,
Hmm.
I do enjoy though that when Sonic comes back, he has this little chance to just speed by all of his friends in slow motion and just be like, "Oh my god, I missed you guys. It's good to see." And then it goes right back to the point where before he shattered the prism, and the first thing he does is actually give Eggman's robot a big old hug. I thought it was adorable and
Yeah.
funny.
Agreed.
And mm, and then there's this entire thing of it. I also like that to him he's just been through this huge ass adventure, and like the last thing that he has to do is one last team up with his friends as he knows them against Eggman as he knows him, and we get to see a bit more of the OG characters in this animation style.
Hmm.
This was really good. I appreciate it.
Agreed.
Number problem number two. I think there's this entire thing of what happened to you, Sonic? Why are you so cooperative all the time? To which I say, go back an hour or so to hear my thoughts. But okay, then Shadow shows up, goes like, "I'm the ultimate life form. I do what I want," and he cast controls away with a prism. I'm sorry, what?
I mean, I'm okay with it because it makes sense that he would like get the prism away so no one can mess with it anymore because he doesn't want that to happen again.
Yeah, the thing is, I believe they don't make it clear, but I think it's safe to assume that just like Sonic, he remembers everything that happened, so that's the
Yeah.
reason. But also, where the fuck did he go with it?
Don't worry about it.
I will because we're gonna get to it in a bit. So no prism. no Prism, and then Eggman retreats, and just a typical ending to a Sonic adventure. I already said that we don't get to see some sort of conclusion to the other universes,
Yeah, it was
but
a
it
little weird.
ends.
It was also a little weird with the like an explosion happens and then you see Sonic run
Wait,
towards this.
wait, 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 wait. We
Oh,
are getting to it.
okay.
So again, we get to the entire. So then we see like Sonic making chili dogs to his friends,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Wow, Sonic, you've been acting so weird since the cave." And this is the point where I thought maybe he's gonna tell them, a short version, and then nope, another paradox explosion, and Sonic is like, "Oh, come on!" And saying, "Well, gang, it's time. We gotta go fast." He rushes towards the camera, and
That's where yeah, that's just end immediately. I was like, and I sat there. It's like, wow, that was kind of abrupt ending. Also, does
this
that mean we're getting a season four? What?
Okay, so you know what? Let's
Because Netflix is, from what I understand, Netflix has only greenlit this for 3 seasons.
well, let's run down the list. Okay, for one, I will say that abrupt ending bothers me because it feels like the show didn't properly conclude
Mm-hmm.
what it. So, like again, I get what they're trying to do. Because Sonic, we kind of need to do this. Onward to the next adventure. But why another prism outbreak? Like, did Shadow do something? Did Shadow had a dream about Maria and in a fit of rage from it, he woke up, broke the thing again? Like, I'm sorry. So this is the point of like, I'm sorry, what? And then there's and then so they rush to the camera, gotta go fast, ha ha ha. He said the thing, ha ha. And then it ends. Now let's talk about the season 4 thing. So Netflix ordered 24 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If you count all the episodes on Netflix, there are 23. So people are like,
Mm-hmm.
they are not showing anything. There's a bonus episode. There's an episode they're hiding for us. The show is not over. We are on to you. But then you actually take into account that the first episode of the entire show has been 45 minutes long, which is basically 2 episodes, and you're like, ah,
Yep, that'd be it. Potentially.
yeah. However, and that's a big however. There's this entire thing with the season 1 is apparently getting not apparently it's confirmed is getting a Blu-ray release this upcoming March,
Yep.
and
Also heard
and
that.
on the back cover of it, they apparently say that there are 4 chapters to the story. So 4 chapters means 4 seasons, is what you're saying.
Does it though? Because the definition of
Yes.
season has become very muddy in recent times, I would argue.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So let's say, though, right now there's nothing that actually confirms a 4th season, right? They completed the episode order, there's probably not gonna be one. Then again, Sonic Prime has been doing very well with ratings, so maybe Netflix sees the potential. I, I, excuse me.
It's
I
definitely
guess there's
possible,
probably
but
I guess it's kind of possible, but I am also thinking, considering they probably need to reach some sort of a deal with Sega on this, maybe they are not,
it might
you
be one of
know,
those things of like we want to do this and we've set up the show to do it and everything, but yeah, like maybe we don't have the green light from Sega yet. Maybe Netflix and Sega haven't had an agreement that like yeah, we're good to go. Let's announce everything. It might be in kind of a
for all
limbo
we know,
sort of deal.
though, for all we know, they might be talking. We just
Yeah.
don't know yet. Although the official Sonic social media pages did say, it's time to end this. This is the end of Prime, so who knows? If there's gonna be a season
It'd
4, then
be
I'm saying, you know what? Let's see where things go.
it'd be
I would appreciate
wild for
the.
them to do a season 4, but you only get it if you get the Blu-ray. That would be wild.
That this was kind of the thing back in the TV days.
I guess it was technically, but they didn't do that often because I guess back then it was hard to complain about things as much as now because we have the internet and it's more ubiquitous. But
yeah, but not only that, I think back in the day, today you have more ways to make money out of cartoon, right? Because streaming. Obviously, if you stream, it's a fee that goes to the creators. If and also digital distribution and stuff. There's like back then though, if a show's money was basically made either from the merchandising or VHS and DVD sales.
yeah, yeah, box set sales stuff like that. Yeah,
hmm That's how Family Guy came back from the dead twice.
yeah. That's how a lot of shows came back from the dead. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I know, but about this one, I'm actually bitter. So
Fair. No, but
It's-
I don't
um,
remember like an entire season being relegated to a box set or a DVD set or anything like that though. Like that wasn't like I'm not
well,
I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but I don't remember it being a thing.
I would say though it's weird for me that now that the entire show is over, they're only releasing like season one, like the first 8 episodes on the Blu-ray. Like, might as well just release the entire thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm telling you, if I'm getting this Blu-ray, I'm getting for like a collection, a collector pack with all the
Yeah, it's
seasons.
a little weird
That's
that it's just season 1 and that's it.
yeah. Well, but the point of the matter is, you know what? If we're going to
But that
compare this
also could be
to
Netflix being weird because like no, we want to drive people to our, to Netflix. And if you buy the so that's might be why they're not doing anything for season 2 or
that's
3
the thing though
yet,
that sometimes
and they'll do
that's
it
the thing though that
later.
sometimes that's not, as far as I'm aware, unless like the property is Netflix owned, the DVDs of Netflix shows or home releases in general are usually distributed by the IP holder,
Mm.
not Netflix.
It might be, that's what I'm saying. It might be a thing of like because season 2 and season 3 are I mean season 2 is basically a little less than a year ago and season 3 is just
Mhm.
recently, right? So you're that maybe that's why maybe Netflix
I
was
guess
like, hey,
maybe
this needs to be on our service for X amount of time, and season 1 was essentially 2 years ago at this point. So maybe they're like, yeah, you can do season 1, but season 2 and season 3 you can't do yet until after X amount of time.
I suppose. Well,
That'd make the most
I,
sense to me,
I'm
like
not
from an
sure about the
outsider
politics
perspective.
of this, but the one thing I'll say, Sonic Prime has been doing good in terms of ratings. So if it's up for a debate if Sega and Netflix want to continue this deal, then I guess the numbers speak that maybe it will do them good.
Yeah,
Mm,
fair.
if there'll be a season 4, we'll be here to talk about it. If not, then you know what? I'm kind of satisfied either way, despite the ending being a bit. Okay, now I promised, so I guess it's time to talk about it. Canon. Let's break it.
Yeah, I was gonna say earlier, this show is canon to the games. Essentially, did not know
I'm.
that.
I know. It's fair that you forgot. It's been a while since we covered anything here, but I mentioned this since day one.
Ah,
That,
okay, I forgot.
but no, it's perfectly fine, right? I'm not blaming you for forgetting. It's perfectly valid. We talk about other things,
True.
so. But the point is, ever since the show came out, the writers behind it said it's canon. And that sent people into what I can call a frenzy. Because, like I said, if it's supposed to be canon, then Sonic's characterization isn't 100% aligning with what we know him
We
as.
should mention because you say that right. This is supposedly takes place at some point after Sonic Advance 3. So that's
Yeah,
quite a few.
I'm getting to that. Trust me, it's part of the thing. I'm getting to it.
Okay.
So, so anyway, it's canon. And then Ian Flynn, who wrote basically the second half of the Archie comics, led the IDW comics for a bit, and is basically now Sega's lore guy and wrote Sonic Frontiers and is involved with the franchise for basically more time than a lot of people currently living, maybe.
Mhm.
Like he's been with these characters for a lot.
Yeah.
And again, he's basically Sega's lore guy at this point, and a lot of stuff that goes into the story is gonna goes by him. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I love Ian Flynn. He's awesome.
Mhm.
Sonic Frontiers has a great story, but the thing is that he also said Prime is canon. So when you hear it from him, this is basically the closest you're gonna get to Sega acknowledges Prime is canon. Unless someone from Sega actually says that, which they probably won't because but this is the closest you're gonna get that yes, this is canon, no reason to debate this. All right?
Mhm.
And not too long ago, I think I'm not sure if it's his podcast or maybe he was interviewed for a specific podcast, but somebody asked them, well, if Prime is canon, then when exactly does it take place in the Sonic canon? Like, where is it located in the timeline? Because maybe it can help clear up a few things. And he said something along the lines of, I can't answer that until Prime is over.
Mhm.
People assumed because of that Prime is going to have some sort of an explanation as to when it actually takes place once it's all said and
Haha.
done.
Unless it's not done yet, in which case I take back my haha. But if it is done, haha.
You can imagine how many people were pissed at the ending after hearing that. Like, if you thought we just said, "Oh wow, the ending was really weird and abrupt," think if you've heard that kind of thing
Yeah.
before you watch that ending.
I mean, I get it. If I was a big fan of Sonic, I would get it, right? I would completely understand. That would be wild,
So,
to say the
so
least.
to his credit, though, Ian Flynn did go on Twitter afterwards and did say, "Listen, I'm sorry if I set up any expectations. This is not what I meant. What I meant with it though is because when he answered that question, season 3 wasn't out yet,
Mhm.
so we didn't want to really say anything that could spoil the show potentially.
Mm.
Because
Which is
the
fair.
actual the actual answer he gave us to when it takes place in the timeline. Are you ready?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter.
Wild.
That is the legit answer. He said it doesn't matter because because it kind of again the show basically retcons itself. And if you don't want to treat it as canon, you can completely ignore it. And if you want to treat it, it's there, but it doesn't really impact anything.
But did the show I here's my problem with answers like that. Did the show go out of its way to advertise itself as canon to Sonic to Sonic, right?
When it premiered, the writers behind the show said it's canon.
But like were they advertising that? Were they like really
I
proud of
won't
that
say
fact?
I won't say so. This is just one of those things that people blabber on Twitter whatever they want.
Then
So
fine, that's okay. But at the same time though, there is that issue of like if you say this, then it does have to matter somewhat because you went out of your way to say it and you went out of your way to like make a point about it, right? Even if you didn't do it a ton, even if it wasn't a big selling point, you still went out of your way to do it. And so coming out and saying it doesn't matter if you want to take it, take it. If not, don't. It's not, you can't be non-committal now when you went out of your way to state that beforehand because you know for a fact you drove people to watch it because of that, right? And if those people are now
I
upset, they have a right and a reason to be upset. Like I get it.
Mhm. And for the
Whether
record, he did apologize for setting up expectations, which I
which
appreciate.
which
We
is
did
fair,
stay.
absolutely.
Mhm. And listen, the guy has to deal with so many shit from a bunch of entitled fans who
Listen,
are
I get
just
it.
ridiculous. So,
I don't
so
envy him.
so I don't envy him, and so. But at the same point, I would have said, you know, if this was the answer, then I don't think saying if you want to treat it as canon, you can, but if you don't want to treat it as canon, you can also ignore it. I don't see it as I don't see it as an answer that we should wait until the show is over to say that. You could have said it since day one.
Right? I look at it like this, right? Like absolutely, I feel for the guy. He has to deal with a fandom as large as Sonic, the people he's going to have to deal with from time to time. Not everyone's going to
Trust
be good to
me,
deal with, right?
one of the reasons I left Twitter is because I see the shit this man has to deal with. And like, so the other thing, he said, I guess if I have to say anything, it will happen sometime after Advance 3. And people actually tell him, but Albot and Cubot are in this show, and they didn't come into play until Unleashed Our Colors. So what do I? Guys, you know that after Advance 3 doesn't mean that it takes place right after, right? Other games could have happened. Grow a brain.
At the same time, though, like I was saying, I do get if people are upset with him or with
Yeah, too,
Sonic in
because
general
for the record,
or
I'm
with the show,
also.
right? I get it. I think it's fair because again, for the show to be non-committal about it, for him to be non-committal about it all of a sudden when you were very committed to it, even if you did only stated it once or twice here or there, you still did it while or before the show started airing, and now you're
Yeah.
being non-committal all of a sudden. I do get why people would be upset. It's for
No, and
me.
for the record, I'm also kind of disappointed by it that I kind of had to wait until now just to hear it doesn't fucking matter. Which, to be honest, if that's the case, then I can just say this is non-canon and the show would become better in my opinion because I don't have to tie it to some pre to some extent to expected expectations, right?
No,
It can just
absolutely.
be what it wants, and I can appreciate, and I can just treat the Prime Sonic as its own take on the character.
Wait,
But
again, right?
if I need to see it as canon, though, this is where things start to fall apart. However, I will also say that the games don't like there is the continuity in terms of game A would take place before game B, but after game C,
uh
kind of logic. But also like it's not like the games are that high on continuity. Besides Frontiers, there's not much of a continuity.
yeah,
Like you don't need to play Unleashed to understand colors. You don't need to play you don't need to play Forces in order to understand Last World. For I'm just throwing examples here at random. That's
which is fair.
you got what there are probably connecting tissues here and there, but it's not you don't necessarily it's not Kingdom Hearts. Let's say that.
Nothing is Kingdom Hearts, but no, I get it. It's one of those things of like I can see it from the fans who would be upset perspective, and I can see it from people who are like, whatever about it, or because like I look at it to me, and I liken it to it's the same thing if Rooster Teeth or Warner Brothers came out and said the Justice League X Ruby movie, is part one and part two are canon to Ruby. It'd be like, what?
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things of like you have to look at it
But
and
then they
like,
would go. Actually, if you don't want to believe if you don't want to
yeah,
believe their canon, you
after
can
it
see it
releases, right?
that
Like
way.
they say it's canon to Ruby before it releases, and then after it releases says, yeah, basically gives a non-committal answer. It's like it would
Yeah,
be. I could definitely see people getting like angry about that for good reason because basically what you did was you intentionally misled people so they would watch it and you'd get more from it essentially. And I feel like that's wrong, right? And you deserve to be
which
called out for that.
and for the record, Ian Flynn, love ya. If you're listening to this, you're awesome. But this is one part where I have to say some stuff could have been worded better. That's all.
Again,
Though to be honest,
doing this
I'm
live,
sure.
right? Sometimes you will make mistakes podcasting, right? If you're doing it
Yeah,
live, I get it. Like you're gonna from time
and
to time stick
also
your foot in
I
your
think
mouth.
I think because obviously he probably just gets words from Sega like Prime's canon. Anyone asks you, this is what you say. So he probably just also doing his job, right? I can't blame the guy for that. It's just a matter of I guess the show exists, and if you want to take it or leave it as canon, do your thing.
Hmm.
I, at the end of the day, what does it matter if you enjoy it?
Which
And
is fair.
I guess it's kind of closing thoughts. I would say if I had to rank this in terms of my favorite Sonic shows, I would say from the serious ones, from like not counting Boom or Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog in here. I think it's obviously better than Underground because everything is better than Underground, and it's
You
and
and
you
I
know
know about Underground.
some some people are going to kill me, but yes, I think Prime is better than Sonic X. Now that everyone is gonna come after me with pitchforks and torches, I am going to say I won't necessarily say if it's I'm not sure if I like it more than Sad AM, but it needs a bit more time to stew before I make that answer.
That's fair. And I mean, maybe if it does end up getting to season 4, that could change opinion, right? And it could get
Yeah,
better
definitely.
and it could like
Mm,
help it out a lot. But if it,
it can get
based off of
it
what
can
it
get
has right
better,
now, I think that's fair.
or it can make me go, "Oh my god, what?"
It could.
One of the
It
two.
could make it worse. Absolutely. But I think based off of what we have right now, I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say
Mhm.
that this is a good Sonic show. You could
Yes,
do a
it.
lot worse in terms of Sonic, especially
Mm.
show wise.
Honestly, I think I can recommend you more shows than some of the games. Honestly,
I
to
mean,
be honest,
I,
now
I
that
was
I'm
mostly
thinking
just
about it,
referring to
they pulled an oh
Underground.
06. No, no, no. Wait, one motherfuckers pulled an oh 06 on us. It's not canon. Everything never happened. What?
Hmm.
It's the oh 06 ending. They retconned that, but Sonic somewhat remembers it. Holy shit!
They memed you.
Listen,
They got you.
they are. You realize that if someone from Sega or Netflix or whoever is listening to this, they are probably just playing the song at full volume over my
Imagine,
realization.
imagine though if that's legit. If you're legit right though, if you're like legit, if legitimately that was the entire point of we oh just, we wanted to do Sonic '06, but good. Just
Honestly,
imagine.
honestly,
I
I
respect that
honestly,
person even more. This is a great show now. This is 10 out of
I'll
10.
though to be honest, I will say I'll watch Sonic Prime Beat before I'll play Sonic oh 06, even though I see oh 06 as a guilty pleasure. I Prime will take less time out of my life.
I can't believe you're the one that came up with the wild theory and not me this time.
No, like let's. You're giving me too much credit. I'm sure someone in the 4 days since this season came out, someone made that connection.
If not, you heard it here first. Sonic Prime basically '06 you all, Sonic fandom. These fucking writers are
But you know
geniuses.
what? At the very least, there's no zoophilia or whatever it's called, bestiality. At least there's not that.
If they come out and say, yeah, that was our point, that was our plan from the entire time, was to basically pull a Sonic '06, fucking clap, 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 creators.
Clap, clap! Now give me the torches and pitchforks.
Nah, you listen. If they pulled that, if that was their plan and they actually pulled that meme off, fair play. That is some
Mhm.
brilliant writing.
I
Stupid as
I'm not
shit,
gonna
but
give the
brilliant. Stupid,
I'm not gonna
stupidly
give them that
brilliant.
much credit, but you know what? If it was, then you know what? Well played. Well fucking played. Well, I guess with all that said, that's it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts about Sonic Prime Season 3 and the show as a whole? Are you happy with it? Are you disappointed with it? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with capital B, capital C, and on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team. Links are probably going to be in the description. So until the next episode, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye. Sounds awful. Bye bye.